You clicked because you saw the words, "North Korea's tank blitz ended in seconds." And yes, that's exactly what happened on July 27th, 2025. But here's the twist. Those seconds were the product of 17 nights of exact back-breaking preparation by Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade. The world saw sudden explosions. What we're about to show you is the hidden equation of minefields, decoys, and electronic warfare that made a $370 million armored assault collapse faster than anyone believed possible. You're in the right place. This is how it happened. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. From the air, North Korea's path looked wide open, but the earth below was hiding something lethal. At first sight, it was nothing more than an unbroken stretch of wheat and barley, the kind of field that had seen tractors rumbling across it for years. Irrigation pipes cut straight lines through the soil, their silver surfaces reflecting pale sunlight. Drone cameras feeding back to North Korean screens showed no bunkers, no artillery positions, no trenches. Commanders saw only farmland stretching to the horizon and assumed it would carry their armor straight toward the town without resistance. The illusion was complete, but the ground was not what it seemed. Every square meter of that earth had been touched by Ukrainian engineers working in the dark. Beneath the shallow crust of dirt lay a system of pressure plates set in precise rows, each calibrated to detonate at the weight of tracked machines. Sensors invisible to the naked eye were sunk beneath dry soil, rigged to pick up heat signatures and infrared movement. Deeper still, seismic triggers measured vibration from anything heavier than 30 tons. It was not a simple minefield scattered carelessly. It was a carefully engineered machine, waiting. Planting it was a brutal task. Soldiers dug and wired by hand for 17 nights straight, hauling concealment nets at sunrise before civilians would take notice. Every mine had to sit at the right depth to avoid detection, while still ensuring a blast against thick armor. The secrecy of the work meant no lights, no noise, just the slow rhythm of spades and muffled hammer strikes. Their arms ached, their backs stiffened, but each row completed meant the field tightened further into a weapon. This weave of explosives was more than local effort. NATO engineers had checked the design in advance, mapping the way detonation zones would overlap. They walked through diagrams, measuring blast radius with satellite data to make sure the trap would hold against a full column of tanks. If even one gap existed, the plan could fail. That stamp of outside validation reinforced for Ukrainian officers that what they were building would not just hinder armor, it would terminate it. The margin for success was razor thin. One morning, a supply truck veered a few meters off the designated lane. Its left wheel pressed heavy on a patch barely covered back by soil. Everyone froze. The engine cut, sweat rolling down the driver's face as commanders crawled underneath to check for contact. Had it been over by just a foot more, the explosion would have shattered weeks of labor and sent flames high enough to warn the enemy. Somehow the field stayed silent, and work continued. By then, the fate of the armored column was already locked in. North Korea's $370 million spearhead would never reach open battle. The ground they considered empty was tighter than a spring, coiled to unleash all at once. At exactly 7:03 a.m., the first tread pressed down, and the hidden earth answered back. The first explosion wasn't seen, it was felt. A shockwave punched across the ground so violently that the turret of a North Korean T-90 sailed into the trees. For a brief moment, commanders couldn't tell what had happened. Then, dust boiled upward, smoke rolled in sheets, and the sound of steel collapsing on itself echoed across the valley. That first tank had driven forward at full throttle, treads pressing into what looked like untouched farmland. Its optics showed nothing suspicious. Its commander expected to break the silence with cannon fire against Ukrainian positions. Instead, the heavy vehicle became the opening key in a sequence designed to annihilate an entire column. The blast ripped it apart, and even before the crew inside could understand, the surrounding ground lit with synchronized detonations. Within seconds, pressure plates buried rows deep triggered more charges across the convoy's path. The seismic sensors responded instantly to the shock energy of tracked vehicles, passing their silent signal to ignite explosives across multiple rows at once. The result wasn't a single eruption, but a rolling wave of fire that gave no time to maneuver. The tanks couldn't reverse. Their formation locked them into place, each vehicle funneling into the zone of destruction with nowhere else to go. Crews sat trapped behind armor that counted for nothing. One tank after another pitched sideways, hatches torn off, tracks flung across the soil. In less than 4 minutes, 17 armored machines had been gutted, their turrets detached, engines split open, and ammunition racks sending secondary bursts across the fields. Not one of them fired. The weapon system stayed cold, while the Earth itself carried out the attack with perfect efficiency. Overhead, Ukrainian drones captured every flare of heat and each plume of smoke in real time. Operators thousands of meters away watched as infrared feeds plotted the kills, marking the wrecks one by one. Those feeds updated battlefield maps instantly, giving commanders full knowledge of the chaos below. The images showed not just destroyed armor, but crews staggering outside, confused, unable to regroup with fire erupting all around them. What North Korean generals expected was an armored charge that would crush resistance through sheer weight and noise. What they met instead was a defense that turned silence into deadlier force. The moment the steel entered the farmland, the quiet trap detonated with mechanical precision. The contrast was stark, engines roaring as if announcing invincibility, answered not by soldiers firing rifles, but by hidden circuits, setting off unrelenting blasts. The psychological shift was immediate. Ukrainian UAVs didn't just record destruction, they broadcast victory into the command centers, watching. Every frame told the same story. The spearhead that was supposed to spear through defenses was already nothing but a graveyard of metal. In under 5 minutes, what looked unstoppable became nothing more than burning wreckage scattered across farmers' fields. The first wave was gone, and Ukraine wasn't done. They were about to unleash their counteroffense. Ukraine revealed they hadn't just prepared the trap, they had lined up the counterstrike in precise detail as well. The minefield was only the trigger. The reply had been waiting, hidden just beyond the tree lines and farmhouses, for a day and a half. Units lay silent for 36 hours, engines cold, crews staying under camouflage nets woven with crop residue, machinery concealed inside barns with false doors. The stillness in those positions was suffocating, but every soldier knew they would move the moment the armored thrust was crippled. Once the mines tore apart the spearhead, Ukrainian commanders enacted the second phase almost immediately. The surviving North Korean troops looked for escape lanes, but their communications failed. Electronic warfare units switched on wideband jammers that silenced radios across the entire advance. GPS readouts on enemy screens spun out fake coordinates, pushing vehicles toward dead ends or straight into pre-sighted fire lanes. The confusion deepened when commanders tried to call back artillery support and received nothing but static. Retreat wasn't just difficult, it was engineered to be impossible. From cover, lines of T-84 Oplot tanks rolled forward, engines roaring to life in unison. Their 125mm guns locked onto the scattered remains of armored columns. Nearby, 2 S-19 self-propelled howitzers shifted elevation and began firing high explosive shells that detonated in rhythm, pounding regrouping crews. Anti-air batteries, camouflaged under green netting, powered up radars to track isolated drones still circling above the battlefield. When North Korean suicide drones tried diving toward Ukrainian armor, rotary cannons opened up at 4,000 rounds per minute, cutting them from the air in ragged bursts of black smoke. Snipers positioned along irrigation trenches lined up patient shots, eliminating officers by spotting distinctive insignia on their arm patches. Each precise shot was timed with small drone-guided mortar rounds, preventing the survivors from reforming lines or rallying under any senior leadership. The chain of command shredded in minutes. By the time fire settled across the valley, pockets of isolated soldiers were crouched in shock among broken machines. Ukraine didn't stop North Korea's tanks with heavier armor or bigger guns. They broke them apart using patience, calculation, and precision deception hidden beneath the soil. The destruction of that armored spearhead showed how weeks of detailed preparation outweighed seconds of brute force. Next time you hear about a major blitz of tanks pushing across open ground, remember that victory often comes before the first shot is even fired. It's written in engineering diagrams, false coordinates, and mine placement under starlight.